He's absolutely wrong. I mean, look at the reality of the votes, right? I understand that the American people are frustrated. Please believe many of us did not sleep because we were calling and trying to impress upon the senators the importance of pushing back in this moment. And as you saw, we had all but one Democrat in the House that voted for this. So that's 212 Democrats in the House. And then you had the vast majority of senators vote for it or vote against it as well. And so the idea that Chuck Schumer is the only one that's got a brain in the room and the only one that can think through all of the pros and cons is absolutely ridiculous. And Jake, you and I both know that this administration could care less about whether or not they violate the law. We know that we've had to rely heavily upon the courts. And I want to say, as you're talking about the polling on my party, I want to say that it is the Democratic attorney generals and some governors that are standing up against this administration and bringing those lawsuits and winning every single time. They are losing in court. Could we do a better job of making sure that the American people know that we are winning in the courts? We probably could. But at the end of the day, it's still Democrats that are winning for the American people.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. That was one of my favorite House Representatives, Jasmine Crockett. And while I subscribe to a lot of Jasmine's talk, and a lot of her points of view, and the fact that she's a strong Democrat in the state of Texas, I'm not so sure she's right this time. Is she right to rely on just the courts to slow down the onslaught of Musk and DOGE? Schumer had a different point of view, and unfortunately, he's not well liked for that point of view right now. I guess my question is did he single-handedly slow down Musk and DOGE from shuttering more agencies and eliminating more jobs?
Unless Congress acts, the federal government will shut down tomorrow at midnight. I have said many times there are no winners in a government shutdown, but there are certainly victims, the most vulnerable Americans who rely on federal programs to feed their families. While the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. A shutdown would give Donald Trump and Elon Musk carte blanche to destroy vital government services at a significantly faster rate than they can right now. Under a shutdown, the Trump administration would have full authority to deem whole agencies, programs, and personnel non-essential, furloughing staff with no promise they would ever be rehired. I believe it is my job to make the best choice for the country to minimize the harms to the American people.
Chuck had mentioned that a Republican senator had mentioned something to him quietly, that if they went into shutdown, it could last a day, a week, a month, or possibly a year, as long as Donald wanted it to stay out. Because he would have ordered the mega Congress just not to get along with anybody, and he would have waited till September when they would have needed a whole new budget. And in the meantime, can you imagine the havoc between March and September that DOGE could have done with Elon Musk behind him? If we had gone into a shutdown, there'd be nothing in their way. There'd be nobody sitting in these offices. They would shutter them, possibly even sell them. That's what they're talking about. And hundreds of thousands of workers would have been out of a job. There would have been no repercussions. At least this way, with the government still up and running, Musk does run into resistance, and the courts are there to help us. Now, the federal courts would have been there even if the government had been shut down. But let's put it this way. It takes a while to get through a court. Every one of you that's listening to this has watched all of the court actions that it took during the numerous cases that Trump filed with the Supreme Court. I believe it was 72 cases trying to say that he was cheated out of an election, that Joe Biden didn't really win the election, that he had been cheated, and all the time it took for that, and then all the time it took for the 34-count indictment in New York, and all the time that it took, and all of the frivolous lawsuits that Trump would file to slow the courts down, and the government's in shutdown, DOGE and Musk would have had a free-for-all in those agencies. At least this way, there's people in there that can tell us what's going on. There's people in there that can resist. There's people in there that can feed back data possibly even stopping DOGE and Musk from coming in. Now, I'm not saying Chuck's the brightest guy in the world. Not telling anybody what his plan was pretty poor. It's put up a rift between him and Jeffries and AOC and several of the other more vocal Democrats. And unfortunately, they have decided to tie Chuck to the whipping post verbally and have at him in public, which is not helping out we the Democrats or we the independents or we the people while they openly fight amongst themselves. It's what the MAGA want. Stop. Yeah, I know most of you didn't like Nancy Pelosi, but she never allowed public discourse that the other side could take advantage of. Stop your fighting. And Hakeem and Chuck, you really need to sit down and talk. It's my understanding you haven't talked since the vote. And Hakeem, I understand that you're claiming that you're down at a funeral for a friend, and I understand that's important. But we the people need you. I understand your friend needs you too, but you gotta get moving on these things. I'm not taking that away from you. At least with no shutdown and the courts still open and running, we have active debate going on and two fronts to slow down DOGE. And I've got a list of notes here. I want to make sure I read them correctly, so I'm going to look at the notes for just a moment here about the federal and the Supreme Court rulings going against the Trump administration right now. A federal judge has ordered DOGE to turn over records that he has taken from different agencies and to answer questions about the downsizing. Another judge has blocked DOGE from accessing the Treasury data after a lawsuit against the Trump administration. So there's two, that's three. A judge has ruled that DOGE can't dodge FOIA requests, Freedom of Information requests, which several have already been filed, and there's now a movement out among the people to file. They want everybody to file a FOIA request against DOGE asking for their personal records that have been grabbed, asking to know which ones they are. Another big action. DOGE has been temporarily blocked from accessing the Treasury Department's payment schedules. Why does he need the Treasury Department's payment schedules? Judges also blocked Donald Trump from deporting non-citizens under the Alien Enemies Act. We're not at war with anybody. The War Times Act that he wants to put up against Venezuela, which he did try to put up late last night, apparently a chief judge has immediately blocked Trump's war powers order against Venezuela. We're not at war with Venezuela. He just has about 24 Venezuelans down in Cuba at Guantanamo, and he wants to get rid of them. He wants a show of force. So he wants to send them back to Venezuela and disrupt what's going on down there with Maduro and a duly elected Democratic government down there. He's going to do what he accuses other people of doing, sending criminals in to cause mayhem in somebody else's world. The Supreme Court has also rejected Trump's request to keep billions in foreign aid frozen. He was ordered to put it out. So, my point, the courts are working with the Democrats. The Democrats need to work with themselves. If there's ever been an opportunity for the Republicans to point a finger at the Democrats and say, look, they shot themselves in the foot again, yeah, it just happened. And I get that you're all angry. I get that you're all upset. A little bit of less knee-jerk reaction would be helpful. So Schumer, it appears, has stopped the government shutdown that could have gone on for an untold number of months or possibly a year. He's possibly slowed down DOGE because I haven't heard anything about DOGE since the vote was taken, okay? And it, for some reason, it isn't missed on me, and I hope it's not missed on other people, that while Congress was down, if there had been a shutdown, Donald would have had executive power over everything. That's a scary thought, folks. A real scary thought. The Heritage Foundation's 2025 project would have progressed farther down the road, too. And I just, for whatever reason, I just can't let up on the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 because that's what the roadmap is that Donald's following right now. Like I said, I absolutely love Jasmine. I absolutely love Hakeem Jeffries. But I think the old man won this battle, and I think he won it properly. And I'm going to call on Crockett and Jeffries to start talking with Schumer and see if we can't mend this public rift that we've got out there. Now, that's all I'm going to say on the voting. I'm going to stay on Schumer's side on this one. Most of you that know me know I'm not a total fan of Schumer. He's in my wheelhouse, but I just assume backhand him sometimes just to listen to him. But right now, there's something more important going on. The people of Georgia, Arkansas, and Missouri just last night were devastated with multiple tornadoes. 32 lives that they know of right now have been lost. There's 5 missing people. And within those 3 states, all the governors are declaring a state of emergency, hoping that the federal government will also declare a state of emergency with them. You know, WTF, Donald? Really? Is that golf game that important to you? Get these people some money. Get them some help. Help them out. You know, this isn't a time to play golf and to lie about your golf scores. But I digress. If you can do anything as an individual, contact your Red Cross, your local Red Cross. They'll coordinate with the National Red Cross and get these people some help. They really do need it. They've got nothing. I saw pictures of the devastation. It's just unbelievable out there. Anyways, I digress. As you all know, we here at Unscripted Political Discourse support the 50-51 movements, the nonviolent protests and marches around the world and in the United States. With that, I'd like to say thank you to everybody. If you've made it this far, please, thank you for all your help. Thank you for being there. With that, I'm going to say good night and wish you well. Good night.